One of the smallest ways to live is to live a self-centered life. To be self-centered can come down to you saying, all I want is I just want to live a decent life, just enough to feed me and my family. Listen to you, so consumed with your needs. The problem might be you don't have because you don't ask God. But even when you do ask, look at you. It's just me. There used to be a time when motivation was a big thing. Motivational speakers were a big deal. And then people one day woke up and realized motivation doesn't really last. And they started saying things like, what you need is discipline. You don't need motivation, you need discipline. And people who are winning will come out and tell you, listen, I don't need motivation. I'm disciplined. I don't run on motivation. But I want to suggest a different perspective to this in just a moment, and I want you to just bear with me for a moment. I'm not trying to tell you that you are wrong for thinking that discipline is the way, but just bear with me for a moment. My friend, welcome to another episode of Align with Bologo. This is where faith becomes practical living and personal transformation. Oftentimes, when we hear the word motivation, we hear people talk about it as a feeling. And I think that's where the problem is for people who will tell you that I don't need motivation, I just need discipline, I just need to do the work. But when I hear someone say that, when I hear someone say they don't function on motivation, I know that they don't fully understand what motivation actually is. What they're talking about is a feeling, but motivation is not necessarily a feeling. Motivation is not about you feeling pumped for a moment. Motivation obviously comes from the root word motive. Motive. It's your reason for doing what you are doing. So I would argue to say every single one of us need motivation, and the people who tell you that they don't need motivation, they just work on discipline, are the most motivated people in the world. And why is that? Because once again, these are people who have such a high level of discipline because they have a strong reason, a strong motive for doing what they're doing. They have a strong motive. And so it could be somebody who is saying, I have kids to raise, I don't need motivation. Those kids are the motivation. Or somebody saying, I'm building my business. I am building something international, something global. I don't have time for feelings. I don't have time for motivation. That right there is their motivation. In this episode, we're talking about the power of a kingdom-focused mission. And that is the fifth principle from Unlocking Favor with God and People. If you've been here for a while, you know that we're currently going through this. And of course, my friend, if you don't have the book, the link is on the description. You absolutely must have a copy of this book. You can get it on Amazon or our website if you're in South Africa. Now, the power of a kingdom-focused mission speaks to this idea that you must have a mission that is bigger than where you are right now, that is bigger than how you feel right now. That is what we used to understand motivation as being. There is something deeper than your feelings that propels you forward, that pulls you out of that place of stagnation, something deeper than how you feel right now. I want to read for you what James says in James chapter 4, verse 1 to verse 3. Because James wants to tell us, he says, I have an answer for why you guys are not getting what you're praying for. And we know that to this day, there are people who always pray for stuff. When you need something, talk to God about it. When you need something, ask God for it. And that's all good and well. But James says, he acknowledges the fact that some of you are praying and you're not getting what it is that you are praying for, what it is that you are asking for. But what could be the reason? And he gives us one of those reasons. Of course, throughout the Bible, you find different reasons for why prayer often doesn't work for people. But he gives us one of the reasons, which is a big reason for a lot of people. And one of those reasons is this. He says, what causes fights and quarrels among you? Don't they come from your desires that battle within you? You desire, but you do not have, so you kill. You covet, but you cannot get what you want, so you quarrel and fight. You do not have because you do not ask God. What? He says, the reason why you don't have is because you're not asking God. And one would think, well, okay, that seems like a simple enough solution. And somebody else would say, well, I have been asking God. So try again, buddy. He says, but when you do ask, you do not receive because you ask with the wrong motives, that you may spend what you get on your pleasures. It says, even when you ask, your motives are wrong. And it's all about me, 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 me. I'm telling you, there are not a whole lot of people out there that this has worked for, my friend. I have a computer right here in front of me, and the man who brought this to the marketplace, who brought Microsoft specifically to the marketplace, was trying to put a computer in the home of every home, and that was meant to simplify people's lives. So I want you to understand that this is what we're talking about is not just a Christian thing. We're not just talking about going to foreign countries and doing missionary work or going to church and serving every Sunday. That's not all that we're talking about. We're talking about a mission that is bigger than you. We're talking about a mission that goes beyond your personal needs. Because as deep as your personal needs are to you, when it comes to God, I want you to understand that they are not much in the grand scheme of things. And so I'll often say to people that instead of working so hard to just get your child through school, why don't you say, God, I want to put 10 children through school. I want to, every single year, I want to put 10 children through school. Bless me to do that. Give me the wisdom I need. Give me the ideas. If you can put 10 children through school, surely you can put your own through school. If you say, God, I really care about the fact that people are hungry. Bless me. Bless me with the right ideas, the wisdom, the ability, the capacity to feed 100,000 people. Don't you think that you will be one of those people who are fed? Don't you think that your family will fall among those people? And you realize when you have a mission that is so big, when you have a kingdom-focused and a kingdom-sized mission, you realize that solving your problems is not as deep as you used to think it was. Solving your problem is not as deep as you used to think it was. Now, here's the thing. I want to read this for you from Unlocking Favor. Have you ever wondered why some prayers go unanswered? Even when they seem sincere, James doesn't leave room for guessing. He boldly uncovers the root cause and its misaligned motives. The problem isn't always in the asking. Sometimes the issue is what's fueling the ask. Here's the sobering truth. God judges the motives of your heart, not just the words of your mouth. You can say all the right things and still walk away empty-handed if your heart is not aligned with the purposes of God. One of the smallest ways to live is to live a self-centered life. A self-centered life. And oftentimes when we say self-centered, we often think about really disgusting people who are, miserable to deal with because all they care about is just the vain things that, that make them feel better. They love luxury and all of that. But I want to take it a step further for you, my friend, and be very clear about this, that to be self-centered can come down to you saying, all I want is I just want to live a decent life, just enough to feed me and my family. I'm not asking for too much. You see, such a person doesn't care about anybody else. I just want a small little house. If I can just have just one room, I'll be okay. Such a person is self-centered, doesn't care about anyone else, not even their family. God, I want to have a big enough house to be able to have a room for my mother because she's getting old, and when she gets old and needs somebody to take care of her, I want the house to be big enough to accommodate both of us. What's wrong? What's so wrong with that? God, I need you to bless me with an abundance of resources because after I've taken care of my own needs, I know some people who are where I used to be and they would appreciate my help. I want to be useful in the lives of other people. I want to be effective. One of the prayers that I prayed in my early 20s that I continue to pray to this day, God, I want to be reliable. I want to be a reliable man. And I'm telling you now that as much as you may think that selfish people are people who just hoard all their money and spend their money on nice clothes but don't care about anyone else, if you are one of those people who says, I don't want the money, I don't want the resources, I don't want the increase, I don't want the abundance because I don't need that much, listen to you so consumed with your needs. It is perfectly reasonable for me to say, I don't need that much, but I do want more because there are people who need, and I would love to be a vessel that God uses to bless people. There's nothing wrong with that. And it is that kind of mission that I have learned in my personal experience that God backs. I have learned in my personal experience that God backs such a mission. And I know that in our society today, you have a lot of people who are disillusioned by churches because they believe that people get into ministry and start churches just to make money from people, just to get from people. But I'll tell you the truth. The reality in which I have existed for so long, and I do not, listen to me, I am not saying that that doesn't happen. I'm not saying that there aren't people who take advantage of other people out there. But let me tell you something very interesting about my personal experiences. The people that I know, the people that I walk with, the people who mentor me, who do life with me, are people who went into business for the sake of building churches. It was not the other way around for them. They went into business to say there are people who need my help, and I would love for God to use me in other people's lives. And so when they brought their business plans before God, they said, God, I'm not just asking for my family. I am asking for thousands of other people. I'm not just asking for myself. I'm asking for the 100 children per year that I want to send to school who cannot afford to get a tertiary education. I'm asking for the sake of the millions of people that I believe we can feed if we attain this. You have to have a kingdom-sized mission, a kingdom-focused mission. Your vision for your life cannot be so small that it's all about you just having enough. Now, listen, if at the end of this you say, that's still the life that I want, I would not force you. Of course, I can't force you to live a life that you don't want to live, but I'm suggesting this to somebody out there who's in a position where they say, I'm living a small life and I'm not happy with it. I'm living a small life and I'm not pleased with the small life I'm living. Things don't happen the way that I hope they will. James says the problem might be you don't have because you don't ask God. But even when you do ask, look at you. It's just me. So of course, you don't get what it is that you're asking for. Let me put it to you this way. I've seen this reality play out in my own life many times. And by the way, this is from Unlocking Favor with God and People. I've seen this reality play out many times in my own life. In all my years of walking with God and pursuing the calling He has placed on my life, I've noticed a pattern. Lack only ever shows up when I'm misaligned. Whenever I've drifted into self-preservation, trying to build on my own terms, I've felt the pressure and scarcity close in. But for as long as I have stayed faithful to the assignment to teach, equip, and serve, I have been a joyful recipient of His favor. I've always received favor with God when I've remained in alignment, when my energy is spent on how can I serve people better instead of how can I pay the rent this month? How can I serve people better? How can I serve more people? Instead of just being concerned with what can I eat? How can I go on another vacation? How can I do this? How can I do this for myself? How can I do this for myself? Every time that I have found myself in a place where I am consumed with service to other people, I find that favor flows in. Just obsessed with how do we improve our services? How do we serve more people? How do we improve the ability to reach people? Because I'm appreciative of the work we're doing now, but I feel like we can do more. I feel like there are more people. At that point, my friend, that is where God meets us with increase, with resources. I mean, starting this right here, starting this podcast is something that we thought about for a very long time. But I'll tell you that part of the reason why I stalled for so long was saying, but what's in it for me? How much money can I make if we're going to put so much work into putting out a podcast, into, getting people to work with? How much money will we make? And I wanted to see the money up front. Where's the money? But I'm telling you, once again, my friend, as soon as you said, you know what, we're just going to put the work out there so we can serve more people. We see the need for a daily podcast that people can make a part of their morning routine and get their minds right before their minds are filled with bad news and this report and that report. Can we create something that people can start their day with? People need this. As a matter of fact, I saw a comment from someone, and I don't know if I can really find it here quickly, but I saw a comment from someone who mentioned how they start their day with the podcast. They said they enjoy their 6 a.m. because while they're making lunch for their kids and getting ready for work, they can receive these truths and it gets them aligned for the day. That's beautiful. That is what it's about. And my friend, resources follow that. That has been our experience. Our experience has been that resources increase follows that kind of attitude. The one that says, how can we serve more people and how can we serve them better? So I'm asking you in your personal life, as we close this off, in your personal life, how big is your asking? Is it just about you? Is it just about you and your kids? I'm not saying there's anything wrong with wanting to take care of your children or wanting to take care of yourself, but I'm asking you, how big is your vision? How big is the assignment that you have committed yourself to? Could you say that it is a kingdom-focused mission? Because if God blesses you, there are hundreds of other lives that will be changed. When God answers your prayer, there are children somewhere who will thank God. When God answers your prayer and gives you the breakthrough, there are millions of people out there who will thank God. That is the kind of mission that God backs, my friend. My friend, this is Align with Poloko. May God bless you.